This this has a cable. I don't know whether he put it to the computer. Now it works. Okay. Now it's okay. So, thank you.
Então, muito boa tarde a todos. Muito obrigado por terem visto esta sessão do CAPP Research Chambers. Sem querer entrar em delicadezas, como veem, a sala está um bocadinho vazia. Esperemos que a sala lá em casa esteja um bocadinho mais cheia. Connosco temos o Young Kim, que vem da Universidade de Oklahoma. E, para quem não o conhece, é um autor de referência na área das relações públicas e da comunicação estratégica, é o criador, juntamente com James Brunick, o pai das relações públicas modernas, de uma teoria conhecida como STOPS, é a teoria situacional da resolução de problemas em comunicação. Hoje, o Yang vai nos falar da Cognitive Harassment Conspiracism. And thank you so much for agreeing to be here with us. So you are already familiar with Lisbon and you speak fluent Portuguese, so thank you very much. So we are looking forward to hear your presentation, and please know that we are few here, but we hope that there are many at home. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. So, come stai? Way that you speak. I know little Italian, come stai, but I ask Sandra about what is the right way to say hello. Come stai. So I'm going to talk about this topic titled Cognitive Arrest in Conspiracism. And I try to explain why people get bogged down in some conspiracy thinking and how we may, if ever, to help them escape from this kind of cognitive trap we have. And to give you history, I think I gave this similar talk twice this year. All year, I was finalisted for University of North Carolina, one of the Intel professors, which didn't work. It's okay. And then I was invited at University of Oxford for Oxford Internet Institute for this topic, and I had some new theories working on some possible ideas. Although the conspiracism is one of the most common problems this decade about that. So I'm going to explain quite quickly about anytime you have an idea, question, just let me know. So this actually statistic, if not statistic, is a survey done about a decade ago. You know, the 911, the Islamic terrorism, which is a terrible thing. These are the people die. And this is a Pew Research Center survey about global survey. Some of the countries, actually, the blue part is who are the crime, this crime made the group. Al-Qaeda, we know that. But then, other than blue of this response, these are actually people are questioning about whether Al-Qaeda really did it. So, problem is, this is a common fact, historical fact. But why each country and society among lay citizens, they don't believe some obvious thing. Now this is about 10 years ago, but you think it's not the same. But when you look for even American citizens, about like 3 years ago, statistics. Think about it. The question was, I believe the September 11 was an inside job in the United States. Only 45% for sure that is not. But other 55% is actually people think maybe there's something going on other than the Al-Qaeda, or they think about maybe CIA does. So this is puzzling, even in American citizens and also worldwide among citizens. So this example tells about how people begin to fail to adopt common fact or historical fact. So I would say that this digital network society is posing these three problems, what I call information crisis, because people feel lost in informational paradise, and also trust crisis. So whatever government or authorities there, people begin to doubt or skeptical about it, the trust crisis. And balkanized crisis, meaning that the people are balkanized, island, they're separate, divide in terms of ideas of some social issue. So my talk will be about conspiracy thinking, how public lay citizens adopt and actually insist about conspiracy thinking about it. And basically, this conspiracy thinking as a problem, as a social problem, is about closed-mindedness among citizens. Okay? And trying to explain what cultivates this type of closed-mindedness among digitalized public and this, how serious this problem, and what could be the possible resolution of this problem. So I've used 4 theoretical frame that I developed with this, with me, myself, with colleagues, and also Dr. Jim Green, which is the advisor, and also still collaborating for the project. The one theory that I think is going to mention about what I call staff theory problem solving is generalized version of situation theory published by Jim 45 years ago. And also information market theory is a more new nascent theory that I started theorizing. And one, the first time that I actually emphasized this one is with Homero that about a year ago in American Behavior Scientists explained about how marketplace, digitalized marketplace ideas, particularly easy to fail to true fact or the true information in front of false information. And also I explained more cognitive problem solving, what I call lay informatic theory. So I'm going to introduce this part of the lay informatic theory and also the new one that I'm working right now, the manuscript. Finally, not only one, but as a partial solution, we're trying to tell the value of certain behavioral paradigm in leadership and communication management, which is developed by Jim and Laurie running over the years, and recently moved by me with the Jim. So I go quickly about efficient theory problems and what is about that. So one of the the favorite, the old saying that I use, the last topic was the whole life is problem solving. So from day one, we actually deal with the problem situation. So this is the important thing for human being or in any living organism, in my meta, that I define and explicate the problem solving from a person is a metaphor with electronicity. So when our expectation state is different or departing from our expectation with what I really experienced, this gap or discrepancy trigger problem recognition for us. And we try to reduce this discrepancy or in some cognitive effort, this is problem solving. So there's several of the assumptions inherent in the theory. The first one is communication is an epiphenomenon, meaning it's a side phenomenon. So I give you the example that if I'm dancing here, my body movement is a real movement, right? But it could be the shadow here, the same movement, in the way that I move, right? So communication is a lot like a side phenomenon, like shadow, because if we have a problem, we may use communicative action, but may not as well. So it's not the ultimately most important, but there's some purpose and a function based on communication. So I distinguish our problem could be solved by our action, but communicative action is an epiphenomenal thing that when we have problems, we are usually tend to use this kind of communicative action to influence the problematic state. So this is important tenet. Communication behavior, along with behavior, is very, very important mechanism or tool to address, rather, or cope with the problematic situation. And also we try to influence our social surroundings based on context. And also we can use it to coordinate efforts with other problem solvers as well. The most important thing here is about when we have problems, we are more applicable to acquire information about the problem. and also begin to be more selective about the information dealing with the situation, and also begin to transmit the information about the problem. So publics is one of the core things for public policy like CAPP. Also, population is about public. So the nature of public is, by all means, is a problem solver. So public defined as a loosely structured, connected problem solvers. And they try to coordinate their action through communication behavior. And they try to avoid isolated problem solving. They try to solve problems together. So this is the protest you see a lot in Hong Kong, Seoul, and even state, in Occupy Wall Street, for example. People act together to influence problematic situation. So this is metaphor to emphasize communicative nature. One, once you have a problem, the question mark, you recognize problem, you begin to do some research and try to identify some of the old recyclable solutions. But if not, you begin to actually acquire more information from external source, right? So more and more you are active in communication in acquiring information about the problem. But one thing you have to notice is people begin to make some cognitive war, meaning that not every information will infiltrate your mindset. You will select more and more as you are more motivated, as more active in communication behavior. So people begin to more sitting and full than what I call. Now, also, this is an important thing because if this is the population of a society, because one of the problems happens that only some people are aware and active about the problem. But lots of us non-threatening communication, they're trying to focus on everyone in the population. And Sonia and I have a very important discussion with Pedro that our strategic communication is emphasized. We're trying to identify more strategic segment in the population because they are like to communicate with organization or with other members of public group. Now, unlike the former theory of situation theory of public, we try to generalize and also begin to explain people's information provision or information giving when they have active state of mind about the problem stuff. So the same figure, but in the meantime, they're different because people begin to also give out their definition of problem and their preferred solution to other people. And I actually just using some of the economic terms, economy of scale in problem solving. Because if you had isolated problem, you probably have a difficult time to solve your problem because of your own resources and time. If this becomes a problem for many, then you can actually divide the cost and actually spread the cost with other people. So you actually become more effective to solve the problem. So people naturally understand. We try to copy and paste my thinking about a problem among others. So it's easier for us to solve a problem. We can also justify mobilization of social resources to address the problem. Okay. So information sharing before means that you are more and more transmissive if you're motivated about the problem. Okay. The same idea. You see that aware active, most active people, they are most likely vocal, speaking out about the problem. They copy and paste it. Okay. And this, I'm going to explain later. This will create a secondary information market. So I'm not going to repeat about theory, but this is the basic theoretical causal models that explain what conditions trigger people's motivation and also cognitive action. How people's scheme of thinking, reference about problem, influence cognitive action. So most important thing is again the same idea. Once recognize problem, people begin to actually accredit it. Then at some point they have a meta problem, meaning that because you are active in problem solving, you attract too many pieces of information. So your mind, the brain is full over all the different thoughts. So we need to actually solve this meta problem about problem solving. So you become more selective, and also you're trying to copy and paste your idea to other people because this way you can solve problem better. The second theory I'm explaining the information market theory. So this is kind of nascent theories, new theory that I'm working on this. So I'm going to explain information type, information market competition, and also market failure in these marketplace like these. And right now, commissioned to do centenary issue of journalism mass compared, one of the flagship journal, no, one, the flagship journal for AJMC, Associated for Education Journal Mass Communication. So this is going to become 100 years next year. So I was bidding for editor-in-chief like 2 years ago, and I was not selected. I think this is maybe my lack of relationship or the network. But anyway, I propose idea about centenary issue to do some big data mining for entire published works, so we can have some trend. So that was my proposal, but I was failed to get the editorship. But I give my proposal to the current editor, Daniela Dimitrova. And she's very generous, and they say, Kyung-nam, you can do this thing. So I begin to commission, and we are about to start working with a selection of authors, and we'll do it next summer as a 100th year of the issue. Now, this frame helps to explain how mass communication or media theory and how digital marketplace idea over time evolving or devolving. So one axis is the media's the social influence, meaning strong mass media effect or weak mass media effect. You know, probably there's a fluctuation of the scholarship thinking about mass media so powerful or mass media not very powerful. So there's some kind of social discussion and also theoretical understanding. What is the role and power of mass media? The other dimension I think about what is the people's role in this information market. So sometimes people are very passive information consumer. If a TV show telling about COVID, for example, I listen and take it. So people are more very docile, very reactive people acquire to select information. But we know now, like Instagram, social media, people actively copy and paste or create or modify information about the thing. So we are working for consumer of information, meaning I produce, consume, and select at the time. Okay. So based on that, we can actually historically illustrate the first 1952, which is more modern mass media birthplace. That is actually the one time, and later there's commercial TV is born in 1952 and 53. This goes to mass media year until like late 1980s. And then after 1989, you know that website, www, the web 1.0 is happening, global internet is emerging. And later, 2005, the first time was the YouTube, and also other social, the Facebook and the social media is happening there. This media actually happened there. Now, one important thing is, sorry for the lot of other stuff, we can actually classify the user of the media content in four paradigms, I call. One is passive audience paradigm, meaning that all the print media, newspaper, people actually just passively listen or read it, right? So the more popular theory is like diffusion theory, for example, hypothetical data theory, or SLR theory, meaning if we massive stimulus happen, that people will respond. Now, after the mass media happened, this is what I call active audience paradigm, meaning that this electronic media, people begin to be more active. So they use and select and gratify with certain media. So some theoretical tradition, like uses and gratification, or you know that agenda setting theory, for example. This all talk about the weaker effect of the media, mass media especially. But after the global internet network in 1989 until like 20-year period there. So this is what I call active searcher paradigm. You probably know that in the internet, most of the time it's more about searching media like Google, your keyword, okay? But we also know after 2005, like YouTube or Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, people begin to create the contents or information and share that. And they begin to create a cluster of social network among themselves, and they have some kind of information and cluster themselves. They share it. So this is what I call active trader paradigm. You know that usually the stock market was a major company as a finance expert, but then right now, every individual people, they begin to invest in they like 5 stocks from Apple, 2 stocks from Microsoft. They do that, right? So like that, we trade information based on interest. So this transition I can talk about very interesting thing. We are more like information consumer, and also this reflecting the media chain. Now, this is one of the Turkish villages underground. And I'm going to explain that. on the top ground floor, there's like a church, bank, police department, municipality, which is an official social institution. But people in village, they could live underground. Some are plus, some are not. But it's like, it's a good metaphor, analogy for information market, how it organized. So I'm going to distinguish two information markets. One is the first information market that I call, meaning the more official, what I call manifest information is the current, most important currency, meaning like the government or scientists say about COVID, or government talk about new policy of economy, for example. So this is more authority, more expert-oriented information. I call this manifest information like manifest flow. We said that this is true, but this is important common fact for our society or community. Okay, so this is more open manifest information, this is main group. But like underground, we also have a secondary information market. So here, the most important thing is unofficial interpretation of manifest information. I'll give you an example. So this is New York Times magazine. If some situation happen there, you can easily go to the commentary section. People, hundreds to thousands people make their own interpretation of what is talk about scientists or government official or some social authority. So this is like a first information market. This is a secondary information market or underground information market. And the most important thing is that this is a more constitutional manifest information, while these are more interpreted information about what's going on and what is told by manifest information in the first marketplace. You can see the amount of that when you go to this is very example. We have this wonderful things, the French kind of the pot, and I'm cooking maybe more than often for dinners for family because my wife is much bigger. And she did a lot of our family work, so this is my fair share of my family. I love cook, by the way, I'm a foodie. But in the meantime, I actually make some kind of burning of that. That was like $300 something, very expensive in the state. Then she was very mad because I teased her that this is a big expensive thing. So since then, one of my wish list is to buy something similar. So I'm just tracking it. Now, when I began to buy it, I didn't buy it because it's so expensive still. There's lots of comparison of this new brand, new product. So this is manifest information by the producer or company. But this is the people who actually use it. It's not very good, actually. Some are good, some are not. So this interpreted information is widely distributed, vary across people in actual experience. To come back to the idea in the framework. Right now, people more and more generate interpret information about same social issues or even brand or customer stuff. It doesn't say that. In all the 1920s until 1950s, because the manifest information by mass media and social information is actually moderately greater than interesting information. Later, TVs and electronic media, radio, this gives more manifest information. While the smaller secondary information market and also internet information. Now, in the group, in the worldwide internet, they begin to have an explosive increase in growth of manifest information as well as internet information because World Wide Web originally triggered by researchers trying to create more knowledge, right? So even when people create more experience, more information, more content through global network of communication. Now, after 2005, YouTube to me is a lot like a Uber. Uber is a very bad company in a sense, no offense, because they don't create anything else. They actually just bring the actual who want to drive, get the passenger. They also connect passenger. They actually don't pay anything for the cars or something like that. They're just matching it as a button, right? Same thing. YouTube, they actually get all the money by make people showing off themselves and people want shopping the contents of that, right? They're clever in a sense. So now we have a bigger and greater market in the secondary market, which is interpretive information, almost overwhelming manifest information. So this is kind of one of the problems we have there. Now, I'm not an economist. We have a very good colleagues. I have a very good conversation with Patrick, an economist. But I use some of the idea of Gresham rule. market failure. So if we say that the metaphor, the first information market and second information market, like underground, the digital media after 2005, especially, this triggered a problem of what I call market subsumption, which is Karl Marx's actual concept. So the first information market is actually collapsing into this second information market. Few people right now go to CNN or NBC. They consume the news, for example, Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, or Twitter, right? We don't go to the media. So they are just one of the many millions of individual trade-off information. So this triggered a lot of problems. Because if mass media, the government experts start to talk about what is really important manifest information about some disease like corona, COVID. This is one of many millions of information. So the authority or credibility doesn't matter because people are just one point of among many dots. So it's indistinguishable, which is more credible or not. If great public and private solver pay more attention, they could better job, but sadly, this doesn't work. So this is what I call market failure, information market, meaning that the truth or established the scientific extreme fact, they fail frequently in competition and the misinformation and disinformation in this digitalized marketplace for ideas. Now I want to go to more cognitive and cognitive side of why people get bogged down in this kind of conspiracy thinking or mis and disinformation. Okay? And this is another field that I've been working since my dissertation 2005 in space. I didn't publish much until last year. So this is one of my favorite quote that life is lead forward, but understood backward. So Søren Kierkegaard is actually existentialism, the philosopher. And I love this quote. I found it actually from one of the cornerstones in the Bethesda, Maryland, when I was doctoral student. I really like the quote. I use it as an example when I theorize about people's cognitive approach to problem solving. So basically, the quick illustration of cognitive problem solving among lay people, or even experts, there's two ways. One is cognitive progression, which is more rational thinking tradition. So scientists think about the problem and they try to collect lots of evidence and finally make some more rational suggestion to the conclusion that evidence works. Also, there's concept of other direction that people have problem, they quickly go to certain conclusion and they backwardly looking for some evidence that justify that. Okay, so this is what I call cognitive retrogression in problem solving. Now, how is that? This is human people, if scientists do. Why this problem? Because this cognitive retrogression tends to trigger more selective reference criteria that justify. And I'm going to explain it. This is the problem in this day. People are very active in communication, but they're very directional or retrogressive. So this is another certain character of the quote that people tend to like using it. I must find truth, truth for me. So truth, something should have some commonality, but this is very subjective, individualistic truth, which is true problem. So based on this cognitive approach model, I actually explain how the act of once the public identifies some issues and problems, they quickly go for a certain conclusion or conspiracy thinking. Started. They backwardly go for evidence and they optimize it. This repeat it, and up to the point that people are like cardiac arrests. Cognitively, they're arrested. They're entrapped in this kind of evidential words. They are more convicted. So the problem is, the more active in communication about certain issue, the more you are dogmatic, that's all. Because they got greater body of evidence. So this evidence, they make thinking, I have all the reason to believe this almost bullshit idea too. So this is what I call cognitive arrest and problem solving. Now the other part of this is not published yet, but I'm working. Maybe this director product. So there's two types of cognitive errors among lay person and lay problem solvers. I call that this is an inflated senses in marketplace of ideas. This is the key idea of lay communities. So I just think two things. One problem is lay publics, unlike expert, they tend to be overly suspicious. to the claims from the first information number. And also, they are overly trusting information from secondary information market. Okay. So if you know that some statistical research methods, type 1 error, type 2 error. So type 2 error means you are accepting, you worry about accepting false information. Type 1 error is that you are worried about whether you reject truthful hypothesis. Okay. How is going? The more important thing, if you're a problem solver, as constraint or obstacle that you have about the situation, the more this in-play sense is happening. So one way they explain it. So if this is an illustration, if the marketplace of ideas consists of 100% and 0% false information, 100% true things, people's suspicion to be 0. But if in the opposite, the true information is 0, false information 100, people should have 100% suspicion about the idea. But the problem is that we are not linear like this way. So we are quickly, overly skeptical, and we resist it, meaning that people are doubters when issues happening in the marketplace idea. So suspicion, this amount of the curve tells about how we are departing from what it should be. So we are overly resistant about the truth information. In the meantime, people are also the same thing but a different thing. So if the 100% is true information and 0% true information, people's trust of these ideas should be go like linear pattern. But people also bias somehow. They overly inflate acceptance or plausibility of from the secondary information market. Okay, so people are like believers. So the problem is people overly indulgent about rumors, conspiracy theories that came from my friend, Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Okay. Now, this doubters and believers, the problem is we are at the same time dealing with first information market and second information market. So we are believers and doubters at the same time. So when you distillate explain that, you are actually cognitively entrapped in this kind of crossfire of inflated senses. So you are actually trapped in some conspiracy theory and concept thinking. Okay? But we're trading the information about problems in first and second information market at the same time. This is very likely if you're constrained, if you're motivated. Okay? So kind of quick summary about the theory. So cognitive errors happen as late problem solvers, late people become active and motivated. And they are more likely retrogressive interaction with thinking and communication. Also, later explain that people are not using the veracity or accuracy of information, but they more concerned about degree of fitting of their current framework and information. So it doesn't matter. And also to the eyes of lay public, the truth of information, certain information are almost indistinguishable because of media contents or because they cognitively inflated sense of biases. They treat any fitting information equally similarly important in their trading in the marketplace of ideas. So these theories so far explain, the three theories I mentioned about explain how lay publics and lay problem solvers, they uniquely, communicatively, cognitively fail to discern true information from false information. So I've been done some study about concept public actually over 15 years at least so far. And this is some of the samples that I've done. So we can also classify conspiracy theory in two levels. So using my theory, low environment or high environment issues. Actually, low environment issues, people are more doing for sense making. So people don't care about Princess Diana's maybe murdered by the UK secret agencies because she was dating with a Muslim billionaire. People believe this conspiracy theory. Or Muslims attacking on September 11, people are suspicious from the Islamic, actually the Muslim, the citizen, for example. So some of them is more kind of gossiping value. They try to reconcile, kind of puzzle and the discrepancy, more sense-making purpose. But if you have high stake about the problem issue, you try to solve the problem, and this also triggers a lot of conspiracy thinking. Now, as a public relations scholar, especially communication researcher, quite often this actually deals with institutions and social organizations like government and big corporations. In the meantime, this constant thinking happens at individual level. Say, if you're working as a colleague, we probably begin to have some constant thinking against our cohort of colleagues, for example. It could be about other groups like Muslim community from the US. Actually, it happened because Donald Trump, he triggered a lot of instigation about the Islamic citizens, for example, although they're peaceful, wonderful people. Because of this kind of, the accusation, a lot of good citizens also begin to adopt some conspiracy theory about Muslim community, for example. It could be even nation, say Muslim countries, they're like Arabic countries citizens, they think about US or UK is our worst enemy and devil. They do a lot of conspiracy theory against it. You know that. So the unit of actors and target are different. So we can sort out the conspiracy theory in different ways. So I'll be real quick about conspiracy thinking is actually another term of people trying to reconcile this gap of discrepancy between what I expect and what I now experience. But if I'm really constrained, meaning I cannot influence this gap, people begin to turn to conspiracy theory, which explains this kind of intractability of this gap. Okay? So conspiracy hypothesis, as long as it reconciles this discrepancy or gap, and people actually think this is functionally equivalent, they act and believe and share that together with among their social network. So I actually explicate, meaning distinguish and measure how conspiracy thinking in different ways. So in a quick way, I don't treat conspiracy thinking as all equal. There's two different things. One is more disposition. The other one is more situational, meaning that actually I give my reason. I'm actually a high conspiracy orientation person. So I really, in general, I love conspiracy theory. Like UFO thing, Area 51, whatever, like implicit data, present action. It sounds like very making sense to me, for example, right? So I have a high tendency to adopt conspiracy theory. Sorry. I'm still there. In the meantime, conspiracy is more situational conspiracy thinking because I may or may not be a highly conspiracy oriented person, but say if this is a huge issue, and I'm not conspiracy thinker, but I may adopt conspiracy because of some reason, especially when a lay person is restricted or constrained in doing something. So is it possible to say, me, as a high conspiracy thinker orientation person, I can, do more conspiracy about the situation. But as for Sonia, who is like a low conspiracy orientation person, she may also adopt the situational conspiracy theory because she cannot influence the problematic situation. So it could be happening. The important thing is that when I started conspiracy study in 2006, 7, and 8, because I have some fun to explain the government issues and also citizen protests about the government. And it was almost 15 or 16 years ago. And when I look at the literature from social science, mostly social science and sociology, there's less than 10 studies about conspiracy theory. Mostly think conspiracy theory is kind of disposition. But I begin to question, because I'm appreciating the theories, well, the high conspiracy thinker could not subscribe to conspiracy theory, or low conspiracy thinker could actually adopt some conspiracy theory for some situation. So that's the actual trigger point that I differently distinguish two different types of conspiracy thinking. So I can imagine, I'll go quick about this one. I have a certain way of operationalization to measure whether, say, if I use some survey instrument, I can actually classify whether you are high conspiracy thinker or low conspiracy thinker, for example. Okay? So using that, I test multiple times. And this is study done based on the Korean Food and Drug Administration Fund. So for some of food issues, those compared to the public, they are very close-minded, significantly, substantially more and greater close-mindedness about information and solution than non-conspiracy public. So if you are all equal to active about certain food issue, this tells. If you are newly conscious public, you're more stubborn and dogmatic and resistant but any scientific solution, scientific explanation about it. So this is significant difference about it. So I would say that compared to public or certain problem or issue, they are more dogmatic or close-minded. Okay. Now this is the other path. Actually, I explained the cognitive model like lateral regression. So I tried to measure and test the idea, theoretical model. So if you have a high propositional conspiracy thinking, this could trigger more situational conspiracy thinking about some conspiracy issue, and this would trigger evidence search, and this will actually increase your optimization and also confidence about your thinking based on evidence you have it, and this will increase more conviction. So this never does it, but one of the studies that sadly and the issue of the cell failure, it was in Korea about 7 or 8 years ago. The failure was actually, sunk. The more than 300 people, especially majority is actually the teenagers who go to, the school travel. So that is real terrible because for a month period, the people don't get any reasonable explanation why this happened, why we could not rescue that. Okay, there's lots of conflicting happen there. Okay? Even now. So what this model tells, okay, if you're more likely to conspiracy thinker, you're more likely situationally conspiracy theory belief about it. And you're coming to actually more and more develop the conviction about your conspiracy thinking or conspiracy entities. So this illustration, what is that if it's a day 1, day 2, and it's a month later, not first. If every morning you check out what's going on, and if you begin to this kind of quantitative effort, because you're motivated to understand it, your conviction about conspiracy hypothesis is greater, almost exponential. So it's about this simulation, by the way, not real data for this one, almost 10 times greater conviction about the conspiracy theory that explains the just problem in the situation. So important thing is, even several rounds of that, how easily lay publics about certain controversial issues become so dogmatic and stubborn and arrested by this conspiracy theory. And we cannot renovate our belief any longer. I did also collect some data for social or corporate issues. So in Korea, one of the biggest companies, which is a big business conglomerate, there's some kind of issue from the customer about corporate monopoly issues. The other study is about some of the service, the issues, pricing issues for the big company. Now the pattern is almost the same. So if you are cognitive aggressive and optimized, your conviction is greater. So after that, because I'm a theorist, I'm trying to generalize these individual studies as more theoretically important things. So this is my new theory of vision theory of the closed mind. I haven't published it. I'm working on it next week. So the key idea, this is the chain theory, probably constructing about migration, but this will create more or less motivational state of our problem solving. And this will increase the conviction. One of the important things is this reference criteria on motivation will trigger more and more cognitive retrogression in problem solving, meaning we begin to step a slippery slope to the closed mindedness. Okay? So this is the way that in communication theory or cognition theory, how lay people, the scientists maybe, as they are more active in communication, they are more likely to retrogress cognitively about the problem. Okay? So then how to reduce this kind of thinking into the problem for purpose? So there are many different issues. And one of the other colleagues that asked about what is the solution of that. For example, Sandra was asking, because she is with NATO, and what about information surveillance and how you advise and solve the problem for policymakers? So this is partial answer for that. How to reduce conspiracy thinking among many countries. One approach obviously supported by rigorous scholars and regulatory science. So regular solution is actually legal too, meaning that if there's some misinformation going on, government or expert can threaten them, we are going to sue. So this is actually chilling effect. People are scared to spread the wrong information. But this has some kind of problem there. Although which is Weaver scholar, who advised Barack Obama when he was in the president. He, as a Weaver scholar, naturally emphasized chilling effect is actually useful. Okay? You can dampen people's enthusiasm to spread this wrong information. More or less okay. The other thing is surveillance. So you can use AI, machine learning technique, and also automated detection of false information. And we can actually peacefully suggest some warning message. This is likely to be wrong. So people have meta information about misinformation. So in Twitter, for example, actually Twitter in 2 years ago, when Donald Trump did the electoral campaign, did a lot of bullshit misinformation stuff, Twitter actually began to warning messages. So if Donald Trump tweets something, he actually did a warning, this is actually unverified, stuff like that. So people, when they look at the information, they have some kind of forewarning, this may be bullshit. Okay, give it meta information about information. This is actually controversial, whether this warning message is effective or not. This is an interesting subject. But anyway, this even actually you can actually ban users. Trump actually was kicked out from Twitter, you know that? What Trump does is he's a character by it. He creates his own social media, you know that. So these types of things more or less working, but still controversial. Socially, say for example, if you're democratic society believers, this kind of a chilling effect or surveillance, it sounds like a reduced citizen volunteer behavior or more pro-social behavior. So this is the kind of controversial issue. Why is it important to do that? Now, more personal level, or probably the better solution, I would say that is the metacognition, meaning cognition about cognition, or thinking about thinking. So using my theory, the information market theory, cognitive theory, people should be aware that amount of evidence for certain issue doesn't warrant something as a truth or truth. So this correlation is not established. You can actually, amass huge amount of bullshit evidence for wrong claim, right? But people tend to use evidence means truth. And also self-doubting. Think about, I may be wrong about this idea, could actually reduce. So in terms of this cognitive approach model, we need to actually reverse the directionality as much as possible. How? If we do metacognition, the way that we think about that, we probably tend to do this one. Okay? And also education or information literacy from kindergarten to high school, even in the college level. This actually helps them to do more metacognition about their current approach in problem solving. The other thing as a communication leader is called metacommunication. So cognition is more individualistic. We think as isolated member of society, right? But we know that in social media, people encounter different people, right? So metacommunication meaning communication about communication. So you can actually help them people, you only use some of the information that supports you. That is danger. This simple meta-communication about your communication behavior, this could be used for some people about this kind of dogmatic considered thinking or quantitative extrapolation. And also this helps to, in teaching theory, there's one important variable information per minute, meaning how much we have a variety of information sources and different perspective about it. So this would be actually track up for your information diet in some sense. Also, there's actually a study done with one of my seminar participants. I was actually was a faculty of political science in Purdue. I was a courses appointment there. And occasionally the political science doctors come to my seminar. So one particular student actually interested in 2013 and 14 about Tea Party movement, which is actually the precursor of Donald Trump. So using this the ANAS survey data, the idea is simple, but I think it's now powerful. Those people who support this conservative Tea Party movement, they tend to go to Fox TV. And they don't use CNN or more liberal media. So based on the source of information, we can actually test the idea whether those people, although I'm a conservative people, if my media information diet is more neutral, or I trust has the other thing. Although I'm not terribly big fan of the river thing, I go to CBS or CNN for the same issue. Versus I always hear interest in the Fox TV. This may make some difference. So there's actually we find some not huge, but some significant findings. Those citizens, conservative citizens who are willing to go outside of their comfort zone in media consumption or media diet, they're less biased, less dogmatic actually. So this actually explains what I call the cross-export effect. Now, this is happening, explained by many political communication scientists as well. And this is, it was about 10 years ago we studied that. Anyway, one important thing is, I actually make precaution that these types of cross-export among by meta-communication is effective, but it's only partial. Okay? And especially only for minority issue public, this communication interaction will help. You probably know the spiral science theory by Northern Norman. So Northern Norman is about actually how the two different opposite stances of public, they eventually be silenced or quiet over time if they think they are minority opinion, right? So it's simplified version of that. So I did actually empirical study with some of the controversy issues, those who are majority public versus minority public. Okay. Interesting thing happened. So although people more community action, those people think they are majority, the more the community action, the more wedging, meaning the more the conviction develop from their community action. But those people who think that they are minority and the fewer opinion, the more community action, they actually reduce substantially this kind of cognitive conviction. And they begin to unfreeze the actually conviction. Now, this is actually interesting and also considered by the meaning that in public opinion, marketplace idea, if you belong to the majority public, you are more likely to be victim of cognitive entrapment and conviction from the community action they do that. But if you are thinking your minority, communication good thing there. You begin to unfreeze your dogmatic idea. You begin to actually question and doubt, develop doubt about what you believe in. So this cognitive, the effort is a kind of mixed blessing for our society. Only for minority public, this beneficial thing happen. But those majority public, they are more and more actually believing what they believe based on their interaction. So I honor my favorite thing that starts with CAPP. And one point of actually his book about conjecture and reputation chapter, he wrote there about, when in the scientific debate, this is probably better attitude to working with the counterpart or your colleague. You may be right, and I may be wrong, but with an effort, common effort, together we get near the truth. Okay. So this I talk about meta-communication and meta-cognition action. So based on my theorization, what I'm trying to say that overconfidence from active communication for some issue problem, this becomes a super slow to actually epistemic inertia, meaning although you start movement, you go to the direction of cognitive, retrogrades with the line essentially. Especially this is important because if you are majority public, you are more vulnerable from your communication to victim of cognitive insight or cognitive arrest. Okay. Now, this is important for CAPP, I think, for our institution here too, because I'm talking about the institutional level, or government, or corporation, or big organization, or even activist group. They have to see this finding, I believe, very important about the issue. So this study is actually about using conspiracy orientation and conspiracy attribution. So long story short, in this multiple regression, hierarchy regression stuff, those individual condition is less important than this macro institutional behavior. So the leadership or management strategy is more influential to reduce conspiracy thinking among people. Why? If you're interested about statistics, that people we enter this the macro level, the institutional level factors. If people have a high disposition of conspiracy thinking, if people have a motivation, these two things will be very substantial. 45% increase of conspiracy thinking, 30% increase from that. But when you enter institutional factors, like if people have a certain trustworthy managing effort or leadership, or even the government give you more information, disclose information or secrets or transparent, some people hate that. Look, trust in government, 21% decrease of conspiracy thinking among public. The secrecy increased 40% more conspiracy thinking, meaning that if you disclose information more, you can reduce 40% less conspiracy thinking. Now, number change from 45, 45, and 32 is a non-significant, almost nothing, meaning that I thought this is a demotivation effect. Government action or leadership will demotivate people to think conspiracy. This is kind of cognitive unpleasant effect as well. Okay, so what I'm saying there, we tend to actually emphasize a lot of times the citizens and the troublemakers. Government people think stupid citizens or stupid people, they don't buy this scientific fact. We tend to faulting the citizen and public, especially the elite, like you, maybe me too, in the society. We blame how people, lay people, so stupid. But this tells a lot of story. So I try to start with one of my favorite writers of all time, Dante, Purgatorio. I'm very bad about Italian, but I try. There was a mondo presented this year, Voi la cagione, and Voi si chiede. So this means, so if the world today has gone astray, the cause lies in yourself or near there. So self-reflection. Now, I give an example of bad effort versus a bad effort trip. The elites and leaders, the government or corporation, they blame individual citizens and public about the problem. So they're trying to remove bad efforts from the world. So maybe the case is actually you are bad effort tree. So whatever the effort coming out is bad. So we should actually talk about this types of a proposal misdistribution by leaders, elites, and organizations, state government. So how we can actually educate not just public, but also the leaders and governments and policymakers to reduce this kind of causal misdistribution. Because as I showed that, this demotivation effect, the more important factor is actually macro contextual institutional factor. Okay? This is important part. So my final thought. This inflates sense of bias among lay public. This is we living in a truth-dependent era and trust quite quickly. And this almost, I would say that, boiling civilization. It's not overstated. Okay? The secondary marketplace idea is the intermediate era. This public conspiracy thinking is high, and people's delegation fails very, very frequently. And also, you know that this trusting or don't trust social institution by government, this is the express way of failing democracy and even failing civilization. Okay? Because democracy means delegation of know-how to read and solve certain problem. If we don't trust our scientists, we don't trust our leaders, this is the problem of democracy. We know that. Okay? So it's kind of public conspiracism is enemy within us. And also this is a threatening of society. So as a highlight, public conspiracy happens when people are constrained to solve the problem, and when they lack of information, and when they lack of influence in decisional process or decisional power. So also the theory, like Ajahn said theory, a lot of times we have an inflated sense about media power, media effect, which is not. So Ajahn said theory in 50 years ago, what this theory tells us is that media is not terribly powerful to control people's thinking. Say, we often think if we have a press-related news media content, this will be copy and pasted citizen cognition. Maybe sometimes more than not. So media is effective not what to think, but what to think about. They may think about something together, but their ideas totally different. Could be. So, like I think that here explained that we need to actually, give up overconfidence and media control. And also, we try to tell our policymakers and social leaders in government and social institutions, if you have a misconception of power of message or symbolic control, you are going to fail your leadership, you're going to not solve the problem. Because as in my theory, I said that the digital marketplace idea empower publics, good or bad, and also this manifest information or first information market, they hardly win over second information market and into the information. So one of the important lessons I think for the public policymakers or government and institutions, it's more important managing their behaviors or policy than control symbolically. Okay? And this way we can actually avoid unnecessary cognitive trap among lay publics. So in other words, exclusion is one of the most important problems that this whole conspiracy happen, because when public, they have high stake and motivation, but they are excluded from external process, excluded from information they want, excluded from the calculus of interest. They cannot reflect the interest of this external process. Then they begin to develop conspiracy thinking, and this would destroy the trust, and this would destroy the communal relation among social members with institutions. So what is the solution? Simple. Inclusion. So one of the two theories that population and Jim and Lauren have talked about, two-way communication, mass communication. So two-way communication actually is a solution for information and exclusion. If we give proper information that public needs it, we can reduce. You see that the demotivation effect from the disclosure versus the secret. Also, if we listen and make voice, and this reflects now distant policymaking, interest exclusion will reduce. So this is thematical communication, balance of interest between the publics and also institutional other content public. So the most effective solution, an ethical solution, but this can constitute inclusion in information and communication. Now, I actually end up with this FEMA. FEMA is very difficult medical terminology, but it's a kind of thigh bone. Now, Margaret Mead, one of the most respected female scholar and anthropologists, is actually known in many different ways, but it must be true. If many different people witness what she said in one of the Q&A sessions by very public, the lecture she gave. So one, very bright, the audience asked questions to Margaret Mead, this great anthropologist. What is the first sign of civilization from your research or anthropology findings? So people think about some kind of the new, the vessels or some of like knives or some of tools that people use that. But Margaret Mead come into this, show this one, or tell about the broken femur and healed femur. So if you are young, you don't know that. But if you have broken femur, it takes months and years to heal. I have one of the good colleagues, and his aged son, broken femur. It took 3 months, although he's like 7 or 8 years. If you are old, it'll be 6 months, a year. Yeah. Now, think about civilization. If we live about like 500,000 years ago, as a chimpanzee or whatever, the age we have it, if you broken femur have it, you are dead meat. Because you cannot run away, you cannot collect your food. But what Margaret Mead actually gave yesterday is, if somebody's broken femur is killed, we found that means this person survived. And somebody killed for 6 months, a year. Feed them, also take care of them. Why? If we are animal, we are not doing it, right? Even lion, if the baby cubs, deadly wound, they actually leave them alone and die, right? So this is different from animal or human being. Why we care about others, although it's easier, convenient for us to even know that. So this is a sign of civilization. People begin to empathize themselves for that situation, troubling situation. they offer the help, because it could be that, it could be me actually next time, right? This type of empathy and also trust, or what we call communal relations as a community, we shall protect each other. So a lot of times you think if you're intelligent that, oh, you know, the trust, communal relation, this kind of bullshit. No, you're not surviving even a single day if not others help you actually. So it's so easy for us to forget it, but the important thing is our democracy and civilization is actually evolved over time to take care of others. And also this is how build the trust and also communal relation happen there among the members. Now, the trust actually enables civilization, right? And communication could actually help to build understanding and also cultivation related more long-term relationships. And this allows this deliberative system going on. The problem is like delegation is in democracy like a car, trust like a fuel. But a lot of leaders in our society, global leaders, they face the situation. We have a car, but we lack fuel, trust. So somehow we should actually run this system, right? So most important thing is trust and communication. This cultivates trust and also relationship. And also the most important lesson I think is communication for social institutions could and should be a tool for negotiating behavior among stakeholders and public, not tool for negotiating meaning what has happened, which is excluding people from interest and the different problems. So this is it. I talk too much about it, and I'm happy to actually discuss and get any questions you have. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I imagine that you are very exhausted because it was a long run.
Well, actually, because a good lunch and some of cafe and help.
So I open the floor to the questions. I think Clara asked.
I have a couple more, but I will make it short. So thank you for your very, very interesting presentation. Although I'm an economist, as I told you before, it is very interesting because, you know, we could say, and some say that economics is a science of choice. So, and we basically try to understand how people make their choices. So it has all to do with what you were saying. That's why I find it so interesting.
Yes.
And one of the things we learn in economics is that in order to make good decisions or to take good decisions, you actually need proper information.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, and going, so picking on that, then you talked about market failure, which is, as you mentioned, economics concept. And we usually in economics, we talk about market failure as a situation where people end up taking decisions that they might think they are good for them. They might not be, but they think they are doing the right thing. But basically, they are not doing what's best for the society. And usually, the market failure is what justifies government intervention in the markets.
Right.
The fact that the market
Exactly.
exactly right. So my question was then, if you say that there are market failures in terms of the information, which again is basic for people to make proper decisions, then should governments intervene? But then, as you were saying, many slides afterwards,